The Ryan Ries Show from Southern California. This is The Ryan Ries Show. Post your questions using @Ryan Ries on his Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Are you ready?
All right. This Saturday night is going to be a sick show. We're going to be talking about storms, people being in storms. We're going to use that story of Jesus in a storm, walking on water. I got Sean Mckeehan. You know Sean. I got Brandon Phillips back in studio from Vert Performance. And you guys never met, right?
No, man.
No, I haven't, but we had a good connection right before the show.
That's what I thought. I thought it'd be good for you guys to hang out. We're all like-minded, and I thought it'd be sick to get us all together to party on the show. But before we start the show, I want to talk some trash on my dad really quick. We moved, and we're actually staying with my parents right now while we're moving to a place. You said you have how many kids living in a...
2-bedroom, 1 bath, 3.
3. So I have 7 people in a 3-bedroom. So we're pretty close.
Yeah. The dishes never end, right?
Oh my God.
Laundry.
So you have 3 kids, you said?
Yeah.
And then the 2 adults. And then you have how many kids?
I have 3 boys.
3 boys, and then you have the 2 adults, and how many bedrooms?
We have 3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms.
5,
okay.
Yeah, 5 people.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
We just
Dishes,
go get a warehouse.
For real.
Probably cheaper right now.
My goodness gracious. Yeah. So
you're in a transition right now.
So I'm in a transition. I was at my dad's house last night, and which is awesome because they have a pool.
Yes.
Sick.
Dude, my daughters are like, wake up at 6 a.m, pool.
Cool.
Eat breakfast, pool. Just always like, Daddy, I gotta go to the pool. I gotta go to work first, and then I'm gonna come back, and then we're gonna go in the pool. And dude, it's been like 108 degrees out here.
It's blazing.
But the pool is probably so nice.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw my dad last night because he's going into surgery today for his shoulder rotator cuff. And I go, Dad, if you don't make it out, any last words? What do you want me to do? He just laughs. You know, because he's like, he got the coronavirus. He's been shot 3 times in Vietnam, hit with a grenade. He got leukemia, got healed.
Yep.
I mean, this guy won't go down.
Rotator cuff.
Rotator cuff.
Just in case.
Car accident.
Man.
Yep.
So anyway, it's car accidents,
Yep.
seizures.
Yes.
This guy just won't go down. And he's the guy that's been bragging, or not bragging, hey, I think this is my last year. I think I'm going to die for how many years? Like 30 years now?
About 30.
But still, he won't go down.
Won't go down.
Unbelievable. So
Did
anyway.
you have any last words?
Huh?
Do you have any last words?
No, he just laughed. And my wife's like, Ryan, don't say that to him. I'm like, Dad, if you die, is there anything you want me to do? Do you want me to throw your ashes down an old man's in San Clemente where you serve? Like anything? He starts laughing. So he didn't give me any last words, so he wasn't going to die. Anyway, he survived. He survived the surgery.
Yep.
So that's good. Again, conquering.
I'm going to
How old
challenge
is
him
he?
to a fight when he gets out. now that you got one arm, let's fight.
Oh, he's like, I got to teach. I'm like, Dad, when you come out of a rotator cuff surgery, you're not typing, right? You're not doing anything. You work in the surf world with,
Okay.
Oh, dude.
injuries and stuff.
You don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Raw is a different animal. We'll see what happens.
Typing sermons together with one hand.
We'll see what happens.
You know what?
Don't be surprised if he makes it on the pulpit on Sunday.
I'm watching. What is gonna happen? I'm in suspense right now. So anyway, that's a little update on my dad. Thank you everyone for your prayers because my dad is a machine. You know, the joke is like he'll be up there with a oxygen tank, diaper pooping, and still teaching. You know, you aren't gonna be we're gonna bury him on that.
They give him a nickname, Sergeant Slaughter, because the guy does not. He's always on point, no matter what. So being 72 or 73 years old,
No, I think he's
about to
is he
be
70? I think he's 70. He's gonna be 74 actually.
Yeah, his birthday was his birthday this
August.
past?
Yeah. 74.
wow.
So
Doesn't slow down.
anyway, he's
Hey,
a
man.
machine.
When you're called to go, gotta go.
He does not play. So look, I'm gonna just read the scripture,
Yes.
and then what I like to do on the show, you guys, because I know we all have a different insight and life application for the scripture, but it's about Jesus being in the storm. It's in where is that? Matthew 14, verse 13. It says, as soon as Jesus heard the news, he left in a boat in a remote area. Wait, is that
22.
Is that where it's at? It starts in 22. Oh, there we
Yeah,
go.
22.
Okay, here we go. Verse 22. Jesus walking on water. Immediately after this, Jesus insisted that the disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake. While he sent the people home, After sending them home, he went into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble, far away from land. From a strong wind has risen. And we're, you know what? Dang it. I'm going to edit that part out. You read it, because I messed it up.
Okay. Do you want to set me up?
Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're going to edit that out. I can't read today. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by reading the storm with Jesus walking on the water. Sean Mckeehan, go ahead and read it.
All right. This is an amazing, amazing story. This is one of my favorite, actually, through the Gospels, and we'll break this down in a second. It says this: immediately Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side. And while he sent the multitudes away, and when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on a mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there. But the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, said, "Be of good cheer, it is I, do not be afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And so he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind that was boisterous, he was afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus stretched out his hands and caught him and said to him, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Then those that were in the boat came and worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God."
So with that said, I want us all to kind of speak into this, because how would this story apply to our lives?
Yeah.
And recently I've been going through a storm in my life, and I could say this, that what I've learned in these storms is we always go through different storms. These are the things that we talk about this over and over on the show. These storms are the things that increase our faith. Number one, God reveals himself in storms. We're never alone in storms, even though sometimes we feel like it, but he is there in the storms, and he's not asleep, in the storms. He's watching us. He can see us, and he's always coming to us when we need him. But he uses these situations, these storms, to almost take us to different levels in our faith walk, because he wants to grow us. We don't ever want to be stagnant in our faith or feel like we've arrived. And if we're truly asking God, going, "God," because like for me, and I know we're all three, they're pretty much the same. We're always going, "God, take us to that next level in our faith, in our relationship with you." But what he uses these storms to shake things up in our life, because we get scared. Yeah. Oh no, am I going to make it out of this alive? Or, is this thing going to happen? You get fear, and you have all these different emotions that are going on with you. It could be with like business deals. It could be with your family, with your kids, I'm trying to think of some other friends. There's all these different things that could happen. But what I've realized is God teaches me to just depend on him, and he lets me know that he's in control of these situations, and that I literally just have to trust, because things that I want to happen immediately, like I want the storm to stop. I want the waves to stop coming over the boat. I want the wind to stop. It's cloudy. The clouds are in. The moon's out. I can't see at night. It feels dark, but what I'm learning in these storms is just to literally trust that he is in it, and he's always moving. He's moving things around in these storms. It could be dark at night and you feel like you can't see where you're going, but he's always working, and what I've learned through this season is that just to really sit back and to basically hold on during the storm, weather the storm.
I think this is why this is such an important text, and I've heard so many great Bible studies off this, is because the first thing that this is just stuck in my mind for many years is that there is only one miracle that is spoken in all four of the Gospels synonymously, in all of them. And that is the feeding of the 5,000. Sometimes Mark kind of focuses on a different portion of Jesus' ministry. There's some stories that are a little bit more detailed in Luke or the Gospel of John and different things. But one thing they all have in common is the feeding of the 5,000. It was a a miraculous miracle. It says that feeding of the 5,000, not counting women or children. So you bump up that number to 20, 25,000 people possibly being there.
If they have as many kids as us.
They probably did.
Exactly. And so taking from that, it was a huge miracle. And why is that significant? Because they experienced the power of God in their lives.
Yeah.
They experienced being used by God. And it's like, man, I want to be right here.
Yeah.
I want to stay here where God's moving. Maybe it's in a time of revival. I want to stay right here. And then God moves you. And the first word it says here that we read, it says, immediately Jesus told them to go on the other side. He didn't let them bask in the glory of being used by God. He wanted them to go on to this next step of their journey in their walk with God. Because one thing I would say to those that are listening right now is that storms are going to happen. The reality of storms, it's a necessity in our lives. And in the end of the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says something profound. The Sermon on the Mount, if you read it in chapters 5, 6, and 7 of the book of Matthew, he gives you all of these great sayings that even people in the world have kind of heard. Love your neighbor as yourself, and we know it being the light of the world, and all the different teachings.
Do unto others as you want done unto you.
All those things, right? But he ends it by summing up all that he taught by saying this. He who hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man that built upon the rock. And when the storms came and the floods came, it was able to stand because it was founded upon the rock. But he who hears these sayings of mine and doesn't do anything about them, I will liken him to a foolish man that built upon the sand. And when the storms came, it fell, and great was its fall. One thing that you see right there, storms came to each foundation. But the result from the storm was far different. And so why I say that is because storms are going to come into our life. You can't avoid them. Whether you're a Christian, whether you don't believe in God, storms are going to happen in your life. And what the Christian faith is so amazing with is God doesn't keep us away from trials and testings in our life. There is a purpose to the trials. You brought that up. It brings growth in our lives. So I believe that this step in the disciples' life, they probably wouldn't have chosen this. There's a lot of things in our life that if we would see the next 10 years of our life, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to face this. I don't want, people are facing losing their businesses and stuff right now during like the COVID thing. People that were entrepreneurs and stuff, whether they're hairstylists, whether they're gym owners, all those kind of industries are going through a lot. Restaurants are trying to kind of find a way to make it through these times. And maybe they were kind of balling and getting their groove on the last couple of years. And now they're facing these things. And this is something that the Lord allowed in the disciples' lives, who the Bible says that he loved his disciples, and he loved us when we were in our mother's womb. So we have to realize that God is not against us. There's so many things here, and I don't want to go too much because we'll take it as we go through the show. But I think that that's what I would want to point out from the beginning. Number one, immediately, Jesus wanted them to go to the other side. Storms are going to come into our life, but the result from those storms will depend upon our faith in the Lord.
And I'm going to have Brandon speaking to this as well, but I do want to add, I had that one study I did called God's Signs in the Storms, and it was all about going through this hardcore time in my life with a pregnancy, but then coming out of it on the flip side was the testimony I got to go and tour around the world and share that would lead thousands of people to the Lord. This story coming out of the storm, God used that storm to create the story. And that's why this time where I'm at right now, I'm in the middle of it, but I have a whole nother perspective on storms. And that's what I want to get across on this show is that, yes, storms stink, but you got to understand what's going to happen. If you allow God to work and you trust him and you watch what's happening in the storm and what he's going to do in this storm to you as you come out of it. Now, when I go into storms, I'm just like, okay, God, let's do this. I don't like it, but I know it's going to be epic at the end. So I just hunker down for the storm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'd encourage listeners, use these, when you go through storms, God has a purpose for them to develop you, to shape you, to mold you, character, and to give you testimony.
Yep.
That's huge. I mean, I immediately, when I hear of like this section of scripture, my mind goes to James, and James starts it off with like, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing the testing of your faith produces patience. Various trials, right? Although we're all experiencing one very large trial, like no one's escaping like the world we're living in right now. We each have our independent various trials, and that's kind of like subject to the home. And being a small business owner myself, when this was all hitting and the beaches were shutting down, I was like, oh my gosh, my income went from great to like, I don't even think there's going to be an income if they shut down the beaches. I can't coach the kids. And so what I do, I was like, okay, Lord, what do I do? What do I do? And immediately I was like, well, I got to work. And so I applied for Trader Joe's, and the Lord opened the door right in the hometown. Nice. And it's like, oh my gosh, Lord, okay, now what do you want from me here? Right. And so these various trials in the testing of it built my faith that the Lord will provide for my family. Not only did he provide, but he provided abundantly, and it produced patience, like just like what we're reading right here, because I can't control how long this thing is going to go on. And so, when I was in it, it was just like, okay, well, I can't do anything except for do the little things well right now. And it's funny because he put me in a place where the entire town goes to the grocery store, and here is someone who, like myself, like I want to grow in my faith. I want to grow in my knowledge of the word and give it out. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm going to place you right here in the grocery store where you're going to start to see all these people who knew you as like USA Coach Brandon or Vert Guy Brandon or whatever. Now they see you as the stalker of frozen peas Brandon, Yeah. And it's like, well, here I go. My favorite place was at the register because I get to have that one-on-one conversation with them. And so those various trials, as we're all going through it, but now independently, like into, what we're doing as a small business is just being like, all right, I can't control any of this. So I guess I'm just going to have to be patient. And that's a really tough thing to be doing right now, is to be like, all right, Lord, I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna have faith, but I'm also gonna be patient right now. Patience is tough.
And with that patience, it's like almost like God works on character too. So he takes you from this image of how people see you, and then he puts you here in Trader Joe's, and he's like, all right, so let's see how he's gonna react to this.
Am I above it?
Yeah, exactly.
Or
are you gonna trust me?
Or am I gonna? Yeah.
Are you gonna trust me?
Yeah.
Are you gonna?
Am I gonna be mad?
And then you did it, and you did it well, and then God bless you and put you back out.
I got 20% off groceries, man.
Hey, it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective. And you want God's perspective in things, and the great lessons that you have in the Bible. And do this. The disciples in the beginning of this, they didn't have perspective. They were like, we're freaking out. And I think one of the things to highlight here is this happens through all of our lives. The disciples, they knew the Sea of Galilee better than anyone, especially Peter, James, and John. They were on that sea all the time. They made their living off the sea. Yeah. They were fishermen by trade. And they encountered a storm. Now, they probably knew that everyone knows the story of the Sea of Galilee, where it's at, with hills all around it. It has the ability to have choppy waves that can just pop up like crazy. People can drown. People still drown in it even today in a crazy storm like that. But yet, these guys, in all of their strength, with all their knowledge, with all of their know-how, they encountered something that they couldn't rely upon their own strength. That's the key. There's some things that maybe we look at ourselves like, I'm good in that area. Like, I don't really have a weakness here. My weaknesses are here. But sometimes we are taken to the place of total humility. We're like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do. And that's where victory begins. You going to say something, Brandon?
I was just agreeing. It's just like that letting go, right? Like, Lord, I can't force anything. I can't control anything. All I can do right now is come to you with all I have. And I've experienced that lately, where it's like your business will not be open, And so it's like, where is this going to come from? Like, I do not know, Lord. And then it's like, that gift of in the mail or something. And it's just like, there's no explanation of it, of how the Lord just moves through people to provide. But I don't just really like walking in faith and not by sight is just, it's taken on a new meaning to me, like through those last few months.
Yeah.
And with the story, it's like these guys are in a storm, just like you were in a storm, going through that stuff. Where's all the provision? But then Jesus says that Jesus was on the hill and he was praying and he saw them in the storm. Like he sees us. And sometimes we feel like, you know, there's been times in the past couple months where I'm just like, God, like what the heck is going on? Like literally, my brain is exhausted. I'm not only physically exhausted from working so many hours on these projects that I'm working on, but I'm like, I'm mentally like I'm drained.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, do you see this? Are you gonna come through? But then it's like, I go to that place where I'm just like, I trust. I'm like, okay, I know you're in control. And then it's like, then I have peace. So I'm in the storm, but even though it feels like everything's going crazy around me, I'm tired, but I'm pushing through because I know that God's in the storm. You know what I mean? Like I have that encouragement. Like, okay, I just got to keep pushing. It's tough right now. I'm mentally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted, but I got to keep pushing. I got to keep pushing. Basically, you're just hunkering the storm is what I'm saying. Because I know I have peace in the storm that God's with me, but yet it's still tiring. Yeah. It's still exhausting. Just because God's in the storm doesn't mean like everything's going to be all right in the storm. Yeah. You're still in a storm. Yeah. You know? People need to be encouraged in that.
I think what you hit right now, Ryan, is where I think a lot of people either fail or succeed. And that is when you ask the question, where is God in this?
Faith and endurance. You said it in James.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it. It's the faith.
Yeah.
But it's the endurance. You just keep enduring and enduring. You're exhausted. You're tired. That verse you just said, it just came to me. That's it.
Runs the race.
And that's what, when it comes to the verse that he's referring to, when it says patience, it's speaking of that endurance, that strength. And you know what happens? It means that you have to go through that, because when you have victories in your life like that through past storms, you're able to kind of have that memory of like, you know what? Like God was with me through this. And I don't get it right now. I don't see how this is going to work out, but I trust the Lord is going to see me through. And I think that that's so important, because it's so easy for us to not trust. It's so easy for us not to wait. And that waiting is, waiting upon God is probably one of the hardest things to do whether it's somebody that's single looking for that spouse, whether it is that waiting for that job to fall through, whether it's, a payment to come through, whatever it might be. Waiting upon God is always tough. And so when we go through these challenges in our life, we need to understand that God is with us. And that's what brings up here. It says that when Jesus sent them away immediately, it says that Jesus went up onto the hill to pray. Like, we're not alone. I truly believe that the Lord was interceding on their behalf. For Peter, that he wanted to get his foot in his mouth, and all the things that these guys struggled with, because the Bible says that God is a discerner of the thoughts and the intents of the heart of man. He knows our strengths and our weaknesses. He knows everything about us, and he's for us, and he's not against us. There are small storms that we will face, small storms such as, somebody cuts you off on the road and like you're all in the flesh, or somebody maybe slandering you on social media, or maybe it's a family member drama and all those kind of things. And there's big dramas. There are big trials, losing a loved one, losing a job, losing income, finding out you yourself have cancer, or something major, life, you've been given 2 months to live. Those are big trials. But we have to realize that the Lord is with us through these storms. I will never forget, Pastor Raul, Ryan's dad's assistant pastor is Dale Goddard. He's been on the show before. And him and Raul have been best friends since they were young kids, done ministry together. He's gone through a lot of things in his life. When I was here in ministry my first couple of years, his oldest son died in a car crash, and he's in his mid-30s.
CHP.
Yeah, had children. And Dale, he's looked at as kind of a strength of this ministry. He's even keel. He's strong. He's a great assistant with the pastoral, but he's always somebody that doesn't get moved by emotion. His world got shook on that day. And I remember when he came back, I remember at the funeral and everything, but when he came back, we were all kind of made a commitment, like we're not going to bug him with anything, but he needed to come back to his office for normalcy in his day-to-day life. And so he was here for a week, couple weeks or whatever. About a month went by, and he taught his first study here on the staff, leadership. I'll never forget it. Mark chapter 4. Mark chapter 4 is the other time where the disciples faced a storm. It was after the feeding of the 4,000, but it's when Jesus is asleep in the stern of the ship. And when the storm is coming and they're all freaking out again, they go down and they wake him up, and it says, Lord, do you not care that we are perishing? And that is what the scripture that Dale spoke on that morning, because that was his thought. A man who's known God for so many years, and in the beginning the enemy messes with you like, Lord, do you not care what I'm going through? How about my grandchildren, my child, my only son? He has 2 daughters. The one that was going to take care of all my things as grew up. These are major things. The Lord did something in Dale's life so profound, spiritually, growth. There's no doubt that he would choose to have his son back today. He said it before. But his teaching, his discipleship, his mentoring, his understanding that his son is in the presence of the Lord, and it makes heaven all the more real to him and all the more pleasuring to him to know that when he finishes this race, he'll be reunited with him again. But I bring that up because some storms can be very heavy, and the enemy will make you try to question what you're going through. But you will be able to see, like the disciples would see, as Dale saw, that God is good. I just seen his depth. He was always a great teacher, but to me, he's one of my favorite to listen to, because the practicality and him staying the course and teaching the word of God is like, that dude's a real deal. You know, a lot of people can preach it.
It's true.
But when you see it lived out, like, Brandon, you're seeing that right now. You've probably done ministry and stuff like in your life, and now you're facing challenges. And now, like you said, now going to Trader Joe's and having these different positions. And am I gonna practice what I preach about being that servant?
And everyone gets to watch you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of the crew, man.
Yeah.
Those people, you know, and I've, you know, I mean, we're younger than somebody, right? And I look at a guy. I actually heard Dale talking this morning while I was waiting, and I was captivated, and I knew there was a wisdom to what there's a demeanor about him, that there's a wisdom. I get the same out of, you know, just a lot of guys. You know, Joey Brand, he and I are pretty close, and it's like, you know, he's lost. He's had to bury a son too, and it's like there's something about the brokenness of these ones who are called to be pastors, that when they are really living out their faith and being obedient, and you see these trials and these testings and how the Lord has brought them to the other side, man, there is like you said, there's a realness about, like, you know, heaven's real, the realness of the closeness of the Lord. And you just can't help but be like, okay, this is like solid leadership, that you want to be near it. And I mean, because it's a reflection of Christ in them, and you're like, I want to be near that. I don't want to go through it. You know, I'm scared to go through it, but it's like, I'm sure these guys, when the storm hit, they don't want to go through it, but like, they need to be near the Lord. And man, I don't know. That's a moving story, man. I didn't know that about Dale.
Yeah.
God is near. He sees us in the storm, and again, we go through these things, and they build us up. And you know what also storms do is that they back to the checking even the character of someone. You know, like there's people that are trying to put business deals together, or they're waiting, like you were saying, for checks or whatever it be. You know, God's always, he's trying to even test you to see, like, how are you going to react to these deals that I'm opening up for you? Like, are you going to become greedy? Are you going to lie? Are you going to manipulate? Are you going to talk bad about people? You know, there's all these testings. Storms bring all kinds of different testings. Like I've learned a lot. Obviously, I don't lie. I'm not trying to lie or cheat or anything like that with people. But it's so interesting when you go into business deals too. There's all these opportunities arise in these storms where you literally have to check yourself and go, am I doing the right thing? Because it's all about building character. Yeah. And that's what I've also learned too in my life, and a lot of these new storms I've been going through, is it's character checks. Yeah. Like, oh, I could go about business like this, or I can go about business like this. But it's literally God's going, okay, I'm doing something with you. How are you gonna conduct yourself? Character, which is big, and you could see it, and that's been a big learning lesson for me as well. in doing business too, is how you're going to carry yourself in business and character, because it's different than just going out and preaching the gospel.
Yeah.
But when you're doing other business with other people, you got to take all that same stuff into your relationships when you're dealing with non-Christians.
No, for sure. Character matters.
Character is huge.
It is.
Think about these high school kids right now, like having to be on bell schedule at like Zoom.
Yeah.
Like this is a good opportunity for them to build their character. You are supposed to be at a place in school, and like, yeah, it's not easy, but are you going to be that person who says like, okay, like there's no one really watching, no one's gonna force them to log on. Maybe they just can bail and go do whatever they want, but it's like even those little things for young people right now to be able to like, okay, this is my school time, I'm gonna log on.
All right,
character building.
Hold that thought, because we're gonna pick up on that thought right after the 2-minute break. Don't forget to go to the Whosoevers. All the past shows are on there. We have the Whosoevers app. We are touring Montana and Idaho. We're hitting schools. We're hitting churches, youth groups. We're hitting the local skate parks, and we're doing evangelism. We're reaching people that are in storms to let them know that God is near. He sees them, and He wants to be with them in the storm and give them eternal life. Contact us at thewhosoevers.com, and we will talk to you right after the break. Peace.
More of The Ryan Ries Show coming up. Post your questions at Ryan Ries on his Instagram, Twitter, and or Facebook. Now, back to the Ryan Ries Show.
All right, we are back with Sean Mckeehan and Brandon Phillips in studio. So right before the break, Brandon, you were just talking about how character with students online.
Mm-hmm.
So break that down a little bit, and then I think Sean has something to add to that.
Yeah, we talk a lot about like character as we're building it like in our stages of life right now with like business deals or relationships or whatever. But a lot of these kids right now, they're learning the importance of building character just through like logging on to like this bell schedule on these Zoom meetings and starting school. And a lot of these parents are having to work, and so they don't have someone like looking over them to say like, are you even if you have the tab open, is there another tab open that's like that's taking your attention? And so those little opportunities to build character, to really actually to grow, is it's very real right now for these kids, and it's really easy to just be like, I'm not doing that. I'm not logging onto that. Why am I doing this? This is stupid.
Yep.
And
You had a situation, right, recently?
Yeah, so I have 3 boys, and my oldest son, Cohen, he's amazing. He is very easy to raise. He loves sports. He's athletic. He's a jock. He's talented. And he's done good in school. Last year he did good in school. And sometimes, what he's developed is he loves cleaning now. He loves his stuff on point in his room and no problem. The other ones are savages. He has everything lined up. And if I tell him to do something, he does it, and he does better then. It's crazy. He's 11.
God bless that boy.
Yeah, no, I'm like, phenomenal, right? So last night he told me, he's like, Dad, wake me up at 6:30 in the morning because I want to get up early. I want to get my work done early so I can hang out and do whatever. I'm like, okay, I'll wake you up. And so I woke him up, and then I'm getting ready, doing my thing. And then when I'm about to leave, I saw him, and he had a bummed out countenance. He's walking through the hallway. And then he goes to his room, and I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, and I could read him, like he's just kind of shutting down, like mentally. And I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "It was schoolwork. It was too hard or something like that." And he was having a hard time grasping it. And I'm like, "Hey, man," I'm like, "Look, when you're learning something like this, sometimes it's hard. If everything was easy, it would just come easy. You wouldn't have to learn anything." I get it. Like, I didn't like school a lot, but it stretches you because it's preparing you for the future.
Yes.
And I put it in something that he can do. He's an amazing baseball player. I'm like, but look, when you were young, when you were 4 or 5 years old, you threw off the wrong foot. When you came up the bat, your feet would go out like ducks. You would lunge. You would do all these things wrong. And now it's second nature.
Yeah.
You had this practice, haven't practiced for 4 months, and everybody's talking about, boom, like this kid's like, doesn't look like he's missed a beat. Why? You put in so much work. Physically, and those things are all on point. Same thing with schooling and everything like this. What you have to learn right now, you powering through this is important because there's lessons that you need to learn right now of challenges that you can't bail out, you can't quit, you can't get overwhelmed either. Like, God will give you strength to make it through on the small things and the big things. Like, kind of like drilled that into his mind a little bit, prayed for him, bounced. His countenance was still a little funky before I left. But I talked to my wife a couple hours later, and he was doing good. And sometimes it's just that reminder for them too, like, God's going to be with you through these challenges, because it's the times like that. That's what I struggle with in school. Like, if I wasn't grasping it right away, I just check out. Yeah. Talk trash to your friend or whatever. Like, because I wasn't putting the effort in. And there are things now I've grown and known the importance of paying attention to stuff and growing in things, and it's beneficial to you. And for my son and for my kids, I'm trying to teach them things like where they can see that they're building for the future in other areas of life. Character matters. Doing something when you say you're going to do something, all those things. Kids are going to be kids, not going to be perfect. I'm not a drill sergeant, but at the same time, growth is important. Challenges are important.
And that's another thing that I was learning, because I was learning a whole new industry with this new project I'm working on.
Yeah.
So, and I've always was horrible at school. So I had to literally start from ground zero and literally learn a whole industry. And I've been working with a guy to teach me everything. But literally, dude, I would get, by the end of the day, I'm like, my head hurts. And this was part of the storm, is that I had to I'm trying to pick up and learn this whole new industry. And, there's things, there's deals happening and all the stuff. But literally the part of that storm, one of the seasons or part of the storms, was that I had to grow in this area. But now just looking back at the last 4 months, dude, I'm like, I've grown so much, a whole new push, but it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. And it was a lot of work and a lot of self-discipline. And frankly, it was something I didn't really even want to learn, but now actually I really like it. But it was storms can be intimidating.
Yeah.
Very intimidating, just like it did with the disciples. These guys were in their line of work. They were seasoned fishermen in their backyard, in their lake, or it's like a lake, but it's called the Sea of Galilee, giant lake. They were there, but yet they were totally intimidated, and nervous and scared. But that storm grew them, because they ended up getting to the other side.
There's something that is important here, is because it says, and they were in fear, like, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
Fear is the number one thing that will hinder you and cripple you in every area of your
100%.
life. And when they encountered this storm, understand God wants to speak to you, and he wants to give you clarity of what you're going through right now. But Satan's gonna come in like a flood too, and you're gonna bring in doubt, fear, confusion. You're like, dude, I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm not going to do this no more. Get overwhelmed, anxiety. And that's why I believe it's such a beautiful picture of Jesus walking on the sea, because it's a picture of peace, assurance. I'm here for you. You're not alone. And it's like, what voice are you listening to? There are so many people in our world today that are handcuffed in fear.
Yeah.
And a child of God needs to be able to go through adversity to see the power of God. And that's why it's so important for kids to learn to grow. I mean, you teach surfing. And so, I mean, you go to the ocean. All of us have been humbled. You guys surf. You've surfed and skated since you were young. I've only surfed like 15 times or whatever. And so, but you guys are definitely seeing being humbled by a wave, being humbled by the power of the ocean. But one of the biggest things I was teaching my kids when we were out there boogie boarding and just kind of doing the thing is like, understanding how to read the waves and not being intimidated. And when you're in that in-between, and like, if you're in between, you don't read a wave and just get crushed. Like, but having fear can be a hindrance.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's so funny. I was literally out yesterday, and yesterday was beautiful. The water was warm. There was like no wind, but there was actually waves, like some size out there. And I have this kid. He's like a 6th grader, so what is that, like 13, 14 or something like that. And he's a little dude. He's not like this like big beefy kid or whatever. And he really is comfortable on the inside in the shore break. And we're at a spot called Churches, and so there's like cobblestone bottom. It's not sand. It's not easy.
Favorite spot. And yesterday I was at Dana Point, and I was like, no wind.
It's
Super
all
hot,
good.
water's
Yeah.
warm. If there's waves right now, it's probably epic, and you were there.
Oh, I
hate you.
didn't get out. I was in the water basically from like 9 to 6.
Goodness.
That's why I got this nice cancer. But anyways, this kid was like, I'm comfortable here. This is where I'm good.
Yeah.
And of course, like the parents hired me. They're like, he needs some help. And so the very first thing I did, I'm like, hey, we're going to go to the outside. You know, like, come with me. Like, we're going, get on your board, and we're going to the outside. And so I was like, that's our only goal for today. And so we do, and we're hanging out there for like 45 minutes. I'm like, okay, new goal. Now it's time to try to get into a wave.
Right.
And he was just looking at me like, dude, don't make me do this. And so I'm like, oh, it's time to kind of go inside. Let's catch a little one. I get him into a little wave, and he's okay. And then, like, of course, like the bomb set comes. And so he gets rocked like 4 or 5 waves, just like, and I look at him. I'm there. I'm like within like touching distance pretty much. And he was just like eyes were open, the tears are coming, like his like heart was pounded. The storm was real in his life. He's like, this is it. I'm not even gonna live to see like 8th grade graduation. And so I get him inside, you know, we're okay on the beach, and he immediately like was just like, dude, I'm not surfing again. And so we kind of like calm him down a little bit, and I'm like, look at the waves right now. Like, when a wave breaks, I want you to count how long that wave takes to break, and then like the whitewash to kind of like disappear, and tell me how long that was. And of course it's like 6 seconds or something like that. I'm like, you can hold your breath for 6 seconds, can't you? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. When you panic underwater, your body's going to use up way more oxygen, and you're just going to feel like you're drowning, and there's nowhere out, and you don't know up, down, left, or right. But when you chill and know that the storm's gonna pass, when like the wave's gonna like disappear, you're gonna pop right back up, and you're gonna be good to go. And you make your way back out to the outside. And so, you know, the parents were like, oh yeah. And it was funny because they're believers too. I could see like their wheels spinning, like life application right there. But man, isn't that the truth? Like, when we get held under, when we're like experiencing the storm, and we start like, by our own strength, try to get to the surface or get through it, dude, we just burn. We burn up oxygen, and we feel like we're drowning in it. But when we're like stand back, know that he is Lord, like he hasn't gone anywhere. Just because we don't have eyes physically on him doesn't mean he's out of the storm. He's right there with us. And it's so easily said, like easier said than done. But when, you know, as like through this last little bit of the season where I'm like, totally coming into an understanding of like, that's what he means by like getting through it with faith and having that faith that surpasses all understanding, like the peace that surpasses understanding through his faith. It's just like, man, you can't live outside of that. There's no other way to do it.
I felt like at a point a couple months ago, I felt like I was in that same storm with this guy, like this kid. Like it got kind of intense for a moment. And we know that faith comes from hearing and hearing the word of God. And the way I was able to, because it's easier said than done, like you said, the way I was able to come through it is I was able to just remember the verses. That was how, because the fear would be crippling, the anxiety, all that stuff would flood in, because that's how the enemy works. He brings all that stuff. But how do I keep a sane mind and weather the storm? Is I had to keep reminding myself of what the scriptures say. Because if we don't pull from the scriptures, which is the word of God, then our mind, the fear and all that stuff, you will panic and you'll be crippled and you will go down. But you have to you just have to keep reminding yourself of the word of God. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of a sound mind and self-control. That's for the storm. That is for the storm. When you're in the storm, remember that verse. Go underline that in your Bible and recite that. Because that's what literally I piggybacked off of. That's what I listened to. That's what I kept reciting. And I was like stuck to that verse. And we know that all things work together for good for those that love Christ according to his purpose. So I'd be like, okay, I'm in the storm. Now, I know where I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to get to here. But if this is part of God's will, then I'm going to get there. But I also have to go, okay, God, if this is not part of your will and you don't want me to go, then you're trying to block me from this, then I'm okay with that. Point me to the direction that you want me to go in the storm. Because sometimes you're striving in the storm, like, I got to get that. But maybe God doesn't even want you to have that. So then you have to self-analyze and go, okay, God, I'm going to just trust that you're going to lead me to where you want me. And then you have peace. You have peace in that storm. And the anxieties and that stuff, you just trust. Dude, storms are crazy. I've learned a lot in this season. Yeah. More than ever.
You know, they're just so necessary. And, you know, you think about Peter as he is the one that says, if that's you, Lord, let me come out and walk to you. And then what we're talking about with the kid and just like what we've already kind of talked about application, he's starting to walk. He's starting to do all right. He's having faith. But then, boom, the storms are too crazy and he goes under. And it says he's beginning to sink or he's beginning to drown. And like you say, when you're freaking out underwater, like you're going to drown. Oh, like man. That kid, yeah. You're just, and Jesus just reaches his hand down and he lifts him up. And then he says, oh, you have little faith. Why did you doubt? There was a picture somewhere in this building. It used to be by Rawls' secretary's office. And it was a silhouette, basically, of Jesus. It's this story of Jesus reaching out into Peter, and he's in the water, we're having his hand out, and that's what the scripture says. Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? I've always loved that picture because it's so simple, so profound, but so needed. Because if we do inventory, my victory will only come by my faith and trust in the Lord. The scripture that I put on all my Bibles is 2 Corinthians 5:7. For we walk by faith and not by sight. I have to trust the Lord even when I'm not feeling it, even when I feel afraid or scared or intimidated. If I believe that God is the creator of the heavens and the earth, that he spoke the world into existence, that he's changed my life, and everything that I've been given in my life is from God, then he's going to see me through.
Yep. Count it all joy. That meaning, that passage takes on such a different meaning when it's like when you fall into various trials. This kid thought he was going to drown. He pops back up, gets his breath, and I'm like, we're good, dude. You're good. There's your board. And then he's like, oh, okay. And then he looks, there's another one. Yeah. And I'm like, it's okay. We're just going to get under it. And, you know, as you take a few on the head, as your like time progresses and everything, as we've gone through a few storms, we kind of start to enjoy. The beating doesn't seem so bad, right? Because ultimately,
you're like, I'm about to get broke off right now. Yeah. It's all good though. Let's do this.
What so song true. Am I going to whistle in my head while I'm underwater? You know, like just talk to the Lord. And so you kind of get used to kind of like, hey, this life is full of it, various trials. Yeah. And so you kind of start to like, you know, you start to kind of get used to the beating a little bit. And ultimately, I mean, if we as believers, like, even if that wave was going to take us out and drown us, we're all right. There's no sting in death.
Yeah.
Like, we're okay.
Yeah. I have a funny story, and I got to say, I get, and it was with you, Ryan. I don't know if you remember this, but again, I'm not a surfer. You know, I've probably gone like 10 times, 15 times maybe, but not consistently.
What beach were we at?
This time we were at churches, okay? So I go, and I had just became a believer, but I met up with you, Raul Jr., X, and I think his girlfriend at the time, and we're there. The waves were pretty big, and then I remember you telling me this. You're like, okay, we're going to go out. Just a reminder. He's like, look, if you go into the waves, you know, don't freak out. You know, same thing that you're saying. Don't freak out. Make sure you just hold your breath. It's going to pass. The other thing, cover your head. Because of you know, you don't want to get knocked in the head. And then a couple of things. I'm like, all right, cool. Gone a couple times out there, caught a couple waves, felt good. X was there too. X is a really good surfer, right? Yeah. And so, but then it was one of those in betweens. I was like, so I go, and then boom, it was too late, and I got annihilated. Yeah, annihilated. I remember flipping underwater, just like, okay. Relax. Don't freak out. Then
count it all joy.
Then my leash breaks off.
Pop. Oh, it broke off?
Broke off. The board flew down the ocean. I'm like, under. Okay, I'm good. Another wave comes. Go under. But I'm all good. I'm a believer. Same thing you just said. Hey, if I die, I die. It's all good. Made it through the day. But I lived. And I say that because I've always thought about that story, but I wasn't in fear of dying. There's moments in life that we go through that are necessary for our growth in many areas of life. Yeah. And that goes because there's people that are afraid to fly. People are afraid of so many things. People are afraid of sharks. Like I was like my father, I'm like, dude, just think, who cares? I'm watching Shark Week right now. We'll go out. Who cares?
Dude, I'm afraid of the 5. I don't like going on the freeway.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's so many other ways to die, but don't let fear cripple you from what God has for you in your life.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
And, you know, I would like to add, too, is like when you go through those, like when you're surfing and you get hit with a big set and you get pounded, then the next time you're like, oh, yeah, it was tough getting through it. You got worked, but then you're like, I survived. You're like, then it gets bigger. There's like a bigger, you know, bigger waves the next week or whatever. You're like, all right, I already weathered that storm. Okay, this is going to be a little bit gnarlier, but I'll be able to get through it, you know, if I get caught up in the inside or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you learn, and that's a perfect life application of these storms. You know, I went through that one huge storm with my kids, and now going through this other one, it's a different kind of storm because all storms aren't the same. But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get through it, and I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn because of what I went through last time. I'm gonna learn from this. I'm gonna get through it, and I'm gonna grow. And that's the way it goes down.
Dude, my 4-year-old goes, "Don't let fear win, Mom." You know, we're like,
wow.
I'm like, yep. My 6-year-old goes, God makes cool things as we're driving the Sierras. I'm like, that's very true. And then he goes, don't let fear win. Because he sees, like the kids are smart, right? Yeah. They pick up on all the fear, all the anxiety, all the stresses, and we got to handle it. We got to white knuckle it. And then he just lets out at dinner time, don't let fear win. And we're just like, kind of like that word, just kind of like, don't let fear win. Oh my goodness. If we are letting fear win, oh man, like the winds are going to toss us everywhere. Mm-hmm. And what comes after fear? And it's like the anxieties and
depression,
addiction. And now we have to turn to the substance to escape because I can't handle it all. Yeah. But I mean, like, don't let fear win. People out there right now are just so like buried by fear right now. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty easy to look at our world and just be like, okay, I don't know what's going on. But we don't look to a person to figure this thing out, right? Right. Because they can't figure it out. Mm-mm. It's like you need to get your eyes on the Lord. Do not, like Peter, do not get your eyes off the Lord. You're going to drown. Mm-hmm. You keep your eyes on the Lord, and we're going to stay above water because even if the guys like perished in that moment right there, it's all good. It's temporary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, as you finish this text that we read tonight, it's interesting that what we're saying right now, because it just lines up. It says, after Jesus said, oh, you little faith, why did you doubt? And then he makes the storm stop. and it's totally still, it said the disciples looked at him and says, "Truly, you are the Son of God," and they worshipped him.
At the end.
Because when you go through it, you say, "God's real.
Yeah.
God saw me through this." And that's why trials, you don't want to go through them by choice, but they are necessary, and they will come at different levels, various, as James says, small, medium-sized, big.
Just like waves.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing. And they come in severity. Sometimes they come in succession multiple times. Sometimes it's a long period of time in between. But what you'll gain from it, if you are listening to God's voice and being in his word and trusting in him by the power of God's Holy Spirit, you will say, "Truly, you are the Son of God. Truly, you hold my life in the palm of your hand." As you have given the story of your children, as you're going through what you're going through in life, what I've gone through, what people are going through right now, you will see the power of the living God. And then you will have victory, and then you won't have to fear the things that you're going to be facing, because you know that if God is for you, who can be against you?
And I would say right now, even with the history of what's going on in the world, this big, massive pandemic storm, and everyone has their own beliefs on it. Nevertheless, it's a worldwide thing. Whether you believe in it or not, it is affecting everybody, because the way the government is, placing orders on the world. It is a giant storm for the world, and during this time, God is teaching his people things. He's teaching us things in this time, and we should be using this time to hear what God is trying to tell us as the church.
I totally believe it too.
And that's just a blanket statement for so many things that he could be teaching us.
Yeah.
Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid. What a statement for like our world storm right now. Like what hope can we tell people like right now? Like if we see people at that Trader Joe's or whatever, and it's like, be of good cheer. Jesus is still on the throne. Like, don't be afraid. That if you're an unbeliever and you hear that, you're like, what? Like I've heard a lot of things about how to handle this, but be of good cheer. It is Jesus, and like, don't be afraid. Like that is enough to spark my curiosity to be like, where do I find out more? Be like, come and see. Come join me.
Yep.
We're still going through the word.
Yep.
And you see peace on Christians that know, and there's when you talk to non-believers, there's just no peace. They don't know what the heck's going to happen. But that's for another show. All right. Well, it's the end of the show. Brandon, thanks for being on. You have a night that you guys do down at Calvary Chapel, San Clemente, Holland Davis's church. Friday night, it's all youth, surf, skate. It's just kind of real like laid back, and everyone's just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, it's basically just all ages. It's basically just church on Friday nights.
Yeah, perfect. So come down. I'm going to be going out there, bringing some friends. What else, Sean? You're here. Are you speaking at all?
I do Friday nights too here too in Diamond Bar, 7:30 p.m. at Calvary Chapel, Golden Springs. Just a lot of cool things going on at Calvary Chapel, Golden Springs right now. So if you want to know more about it, go to calvarygs.org to see all the services with Ryan's dad, and all of us teach multiple days throughout the week. Also, Somebody Loves You YouTube worldwide. We have so much content there as well, so check it out.
Yeah. Go to thewhosoevers.com, get all the past shows, and what else? There's products you can donate. We are touring. We've been touring ever since the pandemic even hit. Still, we haven't even stopped with the Whosoevers. We have a new video being edited right now that we're going to put out about our tour in the middle of the pandemic. We're going back out on tour for September and October, Montana and Idaho, and we're going to continue touring because the harvest is ripe. We love you guys, and we will be talking to you guys next Saturday. Peace.
This has been The Ryan Ries Show. To connect and find out more about Ryan, click on ryan-reese.com. Check us out next Saturday at 9 p.m. for The Ryan Ries Show.